when you're struggling with this, the thing that you can do immediately is not to get lost in the weeds of this, trying to understand your partner's past, trying to know more about them. So, do you tend to bring up the past when you're in an argument? Let's say you're arguing about something even as silly as who takes out the rubbish, yeah? Kind of the golden standard. Let's say who takes out the rubbish, or why haven't you done it, or I do everything and then you didn't do this time, that time, that time. This is called the history trap. So, and it actually something that can also show up in retroactive jealousy. Hi, this is Noemi. So let's talk about retroactive jealousy and this history trap. So how we might actually bring in a lot of the past and maybe grievances that feel that have never been acknowledged. So what how to deal with that? Now, one of the things is there is this myth that it's the other person's fault. It's the other person uh, who doesn't do, should do, shouldn't do this and that. And sometimes it is the case, but often it's more nuanced than that. Often it's kind of two people in the relationship. Now we're talking about relationships where there is no abuse, there is no manipulation, there is nothing that is that would be considered a a different domain. So if you're struggling with retroactive jealousy, one of the things that might be happening, especially if you're used to the history trapping, or you actually tend to bring up things from the past that you and on Tuesday and 2 weeks ago and last year and 20 years ago. Yeah, it actually happens. It's quite a weird thing, but it does happen, even if the 20 years ago doesn't exist anymore. It somehow kind of feels very real when we are in an argument. Yeah, kind of we are anyway in a different mental state and physiological state, in a fight and flight. And some actually be might be in a freeze or in a flop. So w- it's we're in a situation where, from a physiological perspective, we feel that we need to survive, or there is a drive for us to survive, rather than to connect, to love, to nurture, to be empathic, which is quite difficult when you don't have access to parts of your brain that is responsible for empathy. Yeah, so it's so if you find yourself saying, ah, yes, because you were with this person, and yes, because if you were with that person, and probably because of you think that I'm not as good, or whatever narratives that you tend to create, either continuously. Yeah, so RJ can be there continuously, but it could also be something that just flares up from time to time. But then it's very difficult to either deal with or to get out of that pain. So if you find yourself doing those things, now when we are activated, when we are in this fight and flight, when we are in the midst of an argument, it is very difficult to act in novel ways. Which is why, for instance, if you were to work on this issue, well, when I work with people from a somatic perspective, then the practice uh, comes first. Then you need to practice something like how to stay calm before you can actually apply it. So, in a calm environment, in an everyday environment, before you can apply it, in a place where there is real danger, where there is where you have skin in the game. Yeah. So just imagine if you look at it through an analogy, let's say you're a ballet dancer, and so or an aspiring one, and kind of an adult aspiring amateur ballet dancer, would you ever go and stand on this on a podium? Would you ever try to give a performance without practicing? Would that even be entertained in your mind as kind of gloriously just dancing around? Probably not. Yeah, probably not. I'm yet to find somebody who will say, "Oh yes, I would," and without drinking before that. No, I probably not. Uh, and the thing is that there are skills and there are certain life skills, like how to deal with stress, how to navigate a stressful situation that we learn. We often learn it as children. We often look at how our parents or primary caregivers deal with such situations and model that. We basically start behaving the way they behave. We start feeling the way they feel. And this can be something that is quite positive or quite positively impactful on us. So you might feel stressed and you say, okay, I know exactly what to do. Or you might actually start screaming or really becoming very agitated, and then everybody else feels agitated. Yeah, so that's a have haven't really learned how to manage stress, and your threshold is very small, so you might have disproportionate reactions to even small stresses. Now all of this can change, all of this can change, but coming back to retroactive jealousy, what you want to do in is to think about it not when you are in a conflict, and not to expect yourself to behave differently in a conflict, and not to bring it is to have, for instance, conversations with your partner about those things that might come up in the conflict, so that they can get eliminated, so that you don't have the same arguments over and over, so that you don't bring back these things. Now, if there is retroactive jealousy, then there is a lot of, and by the way, when we have a conversation, we don't want to have it from a blaming that you is this is how I feel. This is what I think. You want to invite the other person to say, what is it that you see? So when we start questioning that what we see, what we perceive, what we think is the only reality, and we realize that we see a tiny little bit of the world, and that even that is heavily distorted by our biases and expectations and the way we feel at the moment and our history, then when we bring in the other person, then we can kind of approximate what is happening, and then start to mend things. And when retroactive jealousy is there as well, especially if it's at a lower level, if it's really huge, then it might be, or might be really difficult to talk about. So this is when you would work with somebody like me that uh, can help you overcome it, rather than just chat about it, uh, which could, but it is a good, it could be something that can give you relief, as long as it's not about blaming the other person, not about making it about their past, but it is about you're you taking responsibility for your feelings, for your thoughts, and saying that there is this at a symptom level and there is something underneath and I need some support, but I am working on it or I want to work on it because it is not who I am, it is not what the relationship is destined to be about. It is something that can be overcome. And I'm committed to that because I'm committed to this relationship and I want to make it as wonderful as it can be.